That means right there in the New Testament, falling down is legal. It's right there biblical. Come on, falling down. Why did they fall down? God got in my face. And let me just tell you, if God's in your face, you're not going to be standing up. I don't see that anywhere in the Bible that they were still standing when God showed up. Falling down. Notice what they say. I love this. We're talking about church growth. The apostolic way. He will worship God. In other words, he came in uninformed. He didn't even believe in God. And all of a sudden, the spirit of prophecy behind the pulpit caused the person to start worshiping God. That means they didn't have to go to Bible college to lift their hands. They fell down and they were, oh God, I worship you, you're here. This is why we need the prophetic anointing on the piano. This is why we need it on the drums, on the bass. This is why we need it on the guitar. This is why we need the singers. This is why we need it. Why? So that people will come to church instead of being desensitized. Come on. Because let me just tell you right now, if you were to go online and type in, how long should a preacher preach? That's exactly what you'd hear. You'd get a list of things. It would say 20 minutes. Now, let me just tell you right now, they're right to a certain extent. Now, 20 minutes of a lecture, that's all I can take. 20 minutes of a lecture, that's all that I can handle. I'm ready to go home and eat my roast. But we're not talking about a lecture up in here this morning. We're talking about the words of life. Oh, come on. We're talking about where God says, my words are spirit and life. And if spirit and life is coming, then 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours makes no difference. Because if I wanted to, I'll keep you to 6 o'clock. I won't. 20 minutes. How can you be convinced in 20 minutes? How can you even be convicted in 20 minutes? I can see it. 20-minute revival. I got a good friend of mine, Cleddy Keith, got a large church in Florence, Kentucky, outside of Cincinnati. I go to him every year. He's a revivalist, traveled with Bill Johnson and John Arnett. He's 75 years old. He said this. He said, clocks have killed more revivals than demons. Oh, you got 1.52 seconds to move God. Because we got people. We got to take the offering. Now, church, I'm all for offering. Without giving, you can't increase.
Right.
If you're not tithing, you're living in financial disobedience.
That's right.
You can't expect economic blessing to continue. You might get lucky. It rains on the just and the unjust, but it's not going to last.
Right.
Because it may not affect your pocket, but it's going to affect everything else.
That's right. Amen.
Now this. Now, church. Can you imagine trying to worship God in 20 minutes?
No.
Because what we have done is we have made worship a time frame instead of a lifestyle. So how do we expect the unbeliever and uninformed to worship God if we're not worshiping Him? And what he's saying is, listen to me. What he's saying is that because we isolate worship to instruments or singing.
Right.
But what I believe God's even, and I'm prophesying over this worship team, what God is taking this worship team is to another level of the prophetic. And that another level of prophetic is an evangelistic anointing that's going to bring the Mormon in. Oh, come on, church. Bring the unbeliever in and bring the uninformed in. Maybe they grew up in a church where they have no clue about the Spirit of God, but all of a sudden they walk in this building, they feel something. It is the Shekinah glory. Come on, church. It is I feel God. Because I'm telling you right now. See, the people that preach this, I don't want to be so caught up in experience. Now, church, you can't feel without experience.
That's right. That's right.
Experience is the pathway to encounter.
Wow.
If I don't experience Him, how can I encounter Him? And so what happens is, if we take experience out of Christianity, then we have a form of godliness that denies the power thereof.
That's good.
So what happens is, you know what, we better not give an altar call because someone might fall down. And I won't name the church. I was at a large church in California, and I was preaching, and I gave an altar call. People were dropping, and the ushers came up to them and asked them, "Are you okay?" They had Pentecostal in the front of the door. The church, come on, let me just tell you what happened. What happened is they lost their prophetic edge. You got 3,000 people on Sunday morning, but you've lost your prophetic edge. So you could have, I'm not saying that there's not those that are really going after God, but you have a majority that only are fulfilling a duty. Instead of connecting in relationship where there's vital life coming out of them. Yeah. Now, church, they will fall down and worship God. Now, notice this. It says this word. I love this. Report. Everybody say report. Report. Say this, report. Report. Now, what is he saying? He's saying this is how church growth will happen. What will happen is the unsaved and the uninformed will feel the presence of God. Prophetic anointing coming upon the privilege. God's reading their mail. They'll walk out of the church. And they'll start walking around Beaver and Cedar City. They'll start walking around their city and report, God's in there. God's in that house. God's in those people. Come on. Because every time those people start talking, I feel something. I can't explain it. I don't even have a theology for it. But all I know is they will report. You know what? That's called evangelism. You know, I appreciate social media. I appreciate all the tools that we have, technology. But the bottom line, there's nothing like testimony. When somebody reports, I came to the conference and God touched my life. What does he say? And report, God is among them. I want God among us. I don't want just speakers among us. I don't want just a good worship team among us. I want God among us. Because if God is among us, it doesn't matter how many devils there are. It doesn't matter how false doctrine there is. It doesn't matter who's preaching what. When God shows up, church, this is why I want the spirit of prophecy to come. You know, if you notice this, every time Moses was with the people, he had an anger problem. Striking rocks. Come on. Throwing the 10 Commandments down. How I love Moses. I want to minimize his greatness so I can apologize when I get to heaven. But think about it, he did. And of course, this particular struggled all his life. He murdered a person because of anger. He would have killed his own destiny because of anger, right? He missed the promised land because of anger.
Whoa.
Right?